Hello. All right. I'm Stefan Greber, I'm project leader for LXD, and this is the LXD 5.9 release livestream. That's our last release of the year, and it's a pretty small one. The main reason for that is we shrank the development cycle somewhat, simply because of the end of year coming up. Initially, like if we're following a normal release cycle, we'd be releasing this week on Thursday, rolling it out next week. But because Canonical shuts down during the holidays and everyone at Canonical will be off next week and the week after, we felt like it was probably a bad idea to release a new version of LXD and roll it out to all of our users literally as we're all off. So we moved it forward a week and released it last week, and we're going to be rolling it out this week instead. As a result of the shorter development cycle, we also have less new stuff in there, which makes it a lot less risky to roll out to users as well. So yeah, here's the release announcement for LXD 5.9, and there's effectively just the one feature that was added, which is the support for network zones as its own project feature. The rest has just been bug fixes and performance tweaks. We've got a fair chunk of those, and there's some pretty exciting stuff in there. Like we fixed a few kind of long-lasting issues, improved reliability for virtual machine restarts, for example, and we've also improved handling of Ceph clusters being temporarily offline, so that instead of LXD effectively having all the commands just wait forever and kind of holding the entire system, that's not been changed to properly detect that whether Ceph is available or not, and if it's not, then just skipping all those instances as we do on other storage pools. So again, it's mostly a bug fix release with just one new feature in there. The feature that was added is the support for network zones as a project feature. So network zones is our DNS support effectively, where you can create a DNS zone inside LXD, and then you can attach that to instances so that they get forward and reverse DNS records generated for them. The way that's been working so far is that the DNS zone name must be globally unique. So even though it was tied to projects, you couldn't have it multiple times. You still can't, and I don't expect you ever will be able to, just because of how DNS works. But then the records within the zone were those of instances within the same project that the zone was created into. And the zone was effectively tied. So for a zone to belong to a project, the project had to have features.networks enabled. You'd think that's fine because, okay, it's a network feature, so you should have networks be owned by the project. The problem is that features.networks only works if you use Oven, and very few LXD users have that set up. But some users do want to use multiple projects and do want the ability to run, want to have their own DNS zones. So moving on to what we've got in LXD 5.9, the way things work now is you can turn on a feature called features.networks.zones. When that's enabled, you can then create network zones. They will belong to that particular project, even if the project doesn't own its own networks. And the way we've sorted that out, because now you've got the issue that you've got a shared network, that's a network that's used by multiple projects, and well, like what zones do you use for that network? And so the way that works is that when you modify the network itself, you can set the list of DNS zones that it should be using. Prior to that, it was just a single one. So you would pick a network and you could only set a single zone for the forward DNS records. Now we support a comma-separated list of network zones as part of the network configuration. And then the way that works is, say you've got two projects, one called foo, one called bar. Foo has the zone foo.example and bar has the zone bar.example. They both use a LXDBR0 network. Now you would go and configure that network setting for forward DNS records. I want foo.example and bar.example. And then the zone foo.example will only have the instances belonging to the project foo, and the zone bar.example will have the instances for project bar. So effectively, we look at what zone or what project does the zone belong to, and then we filter the list of instances based on that. So that works. It's definitely a bit of an edge case, but that makes things a bit simpler, well, a bit clearer, slightly more flexible to have that config key in place. Anyway, that's literally the only new feature in there. So just switch over to demo and give you a quick, quickly showing how that actually works. So if I just go here and switch to terminal, there we go. So here I'm on actually my laptop. It's running LXD 5.9. All good. And I believe I'm in my demo project here. Yeah, I am. So current project is demo. And that demo project is pretty boring. It's got literally nothing in it. But you'll notice in the table there that network zones here is marked as no. So that means that if I do LXC network zone list, I see foo.example, and that's because it's set to no, means it was inherited from the default project. So what you can do now is do project set demo features networks zones true. Okay, and now if I do if I do zone list again, it's empty. And now you can do create bar.example. Okay. And as I mentioned, now if you wanted to configure that, you can do network set on, say, LXDBR0. And I'm trying to remember what the config is. Is it DNS at zones.reverse, forward, I think, something like that. I've not used that feature in a while. So do a example, bar.example. This is not the correct config key. Huh. Okay, let me just go look at the docs. It's gonna go faster. Reference project. No, where's project? My project is still there. Okay. Feature. Oh yeah, I actually need the network docs. Oops. Reference networks, and that would be network bridge. Okay. Let's go down a bit. Table. DNS. Oh, okay, it's singular. DNS zone. Fine. DNS zone forward. Foo.example, bar.example. There we go. And I believe we support show on it. I think we do. I'm not sure if it's going to actually show us the useful records, but let's see. Like the point is that I don't have a fully set up DNS server and everything to look at. Yeah, so we just see our local records. I think there is a debug route I can use to get a dump of the zone. Let me just check that, because that would be convenient to just show what's actually available in those zones. So let's do LXD, and then I want LXD code base, and I want the internal API. Okay, just check that. So I think we've got a endpoint for DNS testing, don't we? Does not look promising. No, we do only for BGP. Oh, well. Okay. Anyway, what I would like to show is that the zone, so the bar.example here, which is in the demo project, only would, well, in this case, would get no instances whatsoever because there's none currently in that project. Whereas looking at the foo zone, which belongs to the default project here, this one would show a whole bunch of instances because my default project has a whole bunch of instances, as we can see here. So all of those would have their name.foo.example working, and bar.example would currently be empty. Then if we create an instance inside of the demo project, it would get a bar.example record, but would not get a foo.example one. That's effectively what that feature does. Definitely a bit of a corner case for the few users that make use of network zones, but if you're using network zones on a system that doesn't use Oven, then that's probably very useful to you. All right, so that's it for this release. It's not rolling out just yet. It will start to roll out slightly later today. We're just fixing a bug in the snap package with TQLite right now. That should be sorted in the next hour and a half or so, at which point we'll start rolling it out. So everyone can expect to get this in the next 48 to 72 hours. The other thing I wanted to cover quickly is we do have some open headcounts on the LXD team. So if you go on the forum, we've got a post here from our director of engineering that lists some positions we have open. We're currently looking for 2 engineering managers for some of the LXD squads. So I'm currently the manager for everyone inside of the entire LXD department, effectively, which doesn't really scale. So I'm trying to take a bit of a step back and focus more on like overall architecture and long-term planning and stuff for LXD, and less on doing like day-to-day management of everyone. So we're looking at getting 2 managers for 2 of our squads, and we're looking for folks in either the Americas or Europe for that. Similarly, we're looking for 2 software engineers, so Go developers to work on LXD itself, and also either Americas or Europe. And currently those would be reporting to me, but eventually to one of the managers we're trying to hire. So if you're either a Go developer and would be interested to work full-time on LXD, so that there's a couple of postings for you, or if you're a pretty technical person, either a Go developer or C developer or something like that, who's got some experience managing people, then we're also looking for managers. All the links and everything are on the forum if you want to apply. It's always good to let us know, either me or Eric, if you're an active LXD community member. So if you watched this YouTube video or if you came from the community forum, just let us know with a private message or something so we can make sure that your application doesn't get lost anywhere. Just a bit of an overview for like what to expect as far as the hiring process at Canonical. All right, so that's all I wanted to cover. I'm just looking at the questions here. There's been a question around a official LXD web dashboard. So that's something we're actually working on now. There's been a previous round of hires earlier this year that caused the creation of a LXD UI team under the Canonical web department. And so we do have a LXD web interface that's being actively developed right now. It's probably not going to be released in like any kind of stable form for the next 6 months or so. But it's actually being worked on. Actually, I believe it is public now, so let me check. I was told it would be made public. It might still be waiting for it to actually become public though. No, it shows public. Cool. So yeah, we do have a repo called LXD UI under Canonical right now, which has kind of the intro pieces of a LXD web interface. We will be starting to build this and integrate it with our edge snaps soon enough so that some folks can start playing with that using the edge snap, but it's not going to be in a stable release of LXD, as I said, for quite a few more months. All right, well, that was really all I wanted to cover today. Thank you all for either watching this live or the recording afterwards. And as I said, like, a lot of us are going to be away or mostly away over the next 2 weeks. So enjoy the holidays and we'll see you all in 2023. Thank you. Bye.